In this video, we're going to be answering the question, is the new DJI Avata FPV drone right for you? Let's break down the specs, the packages, the prices, who this drone is for, and if that's you. What's up, everybody? This is Joe with Joseph Blake Photography, where we're going to dig into the specs, the packages, the prices, and whether or not this drone is for you, talking about the DJI Avata FPV drone. And stick around to the end, because that's when we're going to decide who this drone is going to be for, and if that's you. If you decide that this is content for you, where I talk about how-tos, tips and reviews, news, and the technology that we use as creators to make things on YouTube and all over, then I'd love it if you became a subscriber to my channel. All right, so let's jump into the specs of this new FPV drone from DJI, the DJI Avata, which is a follow-up to the DJI FPV drone. Let's talk about the flight information first. Number one, it's coming in at 410 grams. And it is a 180 by 180 millimeters. So not only is it about half the weight, but it's also half the size of the previous drone. So DJI definitely heard from their customers who wanted something smaller. The obstacle sensing system is downward facing, so really it's just gonna know if it's gonna hit the ground. And they are really putting a lot of faith into the guards that they're putting on the propellers here. It's got an improved version 3 of their transmission technology, and they're claiming 10 kilometers of range, which I think is pretty much standard now amongst most of the DJI drone products, but they are claiming that it's improved, so probably better connectivity in that distance, less likelihood of dropouts, which is good as you're traveling in between potential obstacles. You want that signal to really permeate to where you're going with the drone. One really nice improvement, and I'm sure this has to do with the weight and size change, is the increase to 18 minutes of flight time. Online reviewers are finding something along the lines of about 15 minutes. It's pretty standard to see about a 10 to 20% reduction in the expectation versus the reality. Here's a fun stat: 60 mile an hour speed. This thing is fast. Compare that to my Mavic 2 that I think has a 45 mile an hour top speed. Okay, so there's the flight drone details. Let's talk about the specs from a creator's standpoint. This channel is about creators. I am not a FPV drone racing guy. I'm not really an FPV guy at all, because I like using drones to create beautiful cinematic content. Now, you can do that with an FPV drone, absolutely. But I really find that the creator side of these products is more important to me and the people who follow me on my channel. So let's talk about the sensor. First, it is a 1/1.7 inch sensor. We've not seen this from DJI before. We've seen half inch, we've seen inch, we've seen 1/2.3. I think all manufacturers of camera sensors, this includes smartphones, everybody, ditch the ratio, right? Ditch the weird division. People look at that and they don't know what they're talking about. And I think, to be quite honest, that's intentional. This is a 0.58 inch, just over a half inch sensor size. You could even round up and say it's a 0.6 inch sensor size, but it is effectively half an inch, maybe a little bigger. And if you compare that to the Air 2S, the Mavic 3, the Mavic 2 with their 4/3 or 1 inch or 1/2 inch, it's 0.58 inches. Okay, so it's a 0.58 inch sensor, 48 megapixels CMOS sensor. That's great. This is a huge improvement, again, over previous FPV, the FPV drone from DJI. So improved image quality and improved cinematic quality out of this drone. It has a 155-degree field of view, which I know wide angles are pretty standard for your FPV drones, but dang, that's like 13 millimeters. That is super wide. So awesome. That really gives you the opportunity to get a huge field of view, which means that as you're flying, you definitely get a lot of motion blur along the side, which creates that kind of sensation of going really fast. Now, out of that 0.58 inch sensor, 48 megapixels, you're gonna get 4K 60. I don't know if that is binned or how they're doing the processing on that. Interesting to see. I'm kind of curious to see some of the up close quality crops on this particular video. And then also they're doing 100p or 100 FPS up to 2.7K. So no 124K. It's 100p, not 120. But you're only going to get that with the goggles too, and we're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes. But you're getting 150 megabit per second, which is, I think, pretty standard with current DJI drones. And it does offer H.264 and H.265 HEVC compression ratios. So those are available both, although I'm sure the 4K 60 is only available in the HEVC. Okay, so that's the flight details. There's the imaging details. It'll also do, JPEGs, stills. It'll do both of those things at the same time if you want it to. You don't have to switch around with things. I guess that's an added feature here. But moving off of the imaging and into just some of the cool stuff that you're getting, some of the advancements from this drone. Number one, it has a thing called turtle mode, where if it detects that it's on its back, it'll just kind of flip it back over, which is super cool. It has an emergency brake and hover, though I'm sure not available in M or manual mode, but that'll be really nice to prevent just absolutely slamming into things. And even though they've reduced the size of this thing considerably and the weight over the previous version, they've also made the frame really durable. So these guards are not the regular prop guards that you would see on a fixed drone like the Mavic style. This thing is pretty sturdy, and so it'll take some hits, but it's also repairable. A lot of those parts, actually, you can just kind of pop right off, and you can purchase, or will be able to purchase, additional components and repair a good part of this drone, which if people are coming from the FPV community, building their own FPV drones, that's what they're used to doing, crashing their drone and repairing it. So with some of the safety features that this drone has, which are huge, not only will it prevent crashing, but also if you do happen to crash, because these things are not super easy to fly, you will be able to pretty easily repair it. Okay, so let's talk about the different package options that they have. There are 3 of them. Package number 1, $629. Just the drone. That's a really good price considering this thing is only 400 grams. It's 180 millimeters wide and tall, and you can, pretty much just throw it up and start flying. With the prop guards, it's gonna have a little bit less of a learning curve because honestly, if you hit stuff, you're gonna be a little more okay. So $629 is pretty good if you're already in the FPV ecosystem. So if you already own some of these components. If you've already got the motion controller, or you've already got the FPV controller 2, or you already have the FPV2 goggles, all of that will work, and you can just move straight to the new drone if that's what you want to do. The next package is the Fly Smart combo, which effectively has the drone and all of the components that you would have from the previous, everything that's basically already been announced. So it includes the goggles, FPV V2 goggles, and the FPV motion controller. So the drone, the V2 FPV goggles, and the motion controller. That is the Fly Smart combo. Then you have the View Pro or Pro View combo, and that is the updated goggles, Goggles 2, and the motion controller. So the drone comes in at $629. The Fly Smart combo comes in at $1,169, and the Pro View combo comes in at $1,329. So moving to the question of who is this drone for? The first thing that you're seeing on a lot of YouTube reviews, a lot of people who had early access to this device, is that this is DJI's real kind of first introduction of an FPV drone for the quote unquote masses. Well, there's not a lot of people in the masses that are really just jonesing for an FPV drone, but they see it and they see that it's super cool and they want to fly and they want to maybe get some great footage. But that doesn't really make sense considering the way that these packages are lined up. So number one, if DJI was intending this to be an entry-level drone, they would not have sold the drone by itself without any controllers. So you got the drone by itself. That's assuming that you already basically have the FPV drone, the previous version, which means that you likely have the FPV goggles V2 and you have the FPV controller. You may also have the motion controller, but more on that in a second. If you're purchasing the second kit, right, the Fly Smart combo, really I don't see much difference between the Fly Smart combo and the Pro View combo, except that it's got the new headset, which is smaller, it's got a lot more features, there's a lot more to it. It's the next rev of the headset. So basically, you have the drone by itself, You have the drone with the motion controller and the old headset, and you have the drone with the motion controller and the new headset. Notice that there is not a kit that has the FPV controller because they don't want you to use the FPV controller with this drone. Software has just been released, a firmware update was just released to allow them all to be compatible. So if you're already in the ecosystem, you don't lose access to the controller, but they don't want you to do that. And you have to do that in order to really be in M mode, and you have to use the new headset to be able to get the full capability, the full graphics capability of the sensor of the unit. So that tells me that there are kind of three different potential buyers that DJI is looking at. Number one is the video enthusiast or creator. And the pros on that are that if you are already in the ecosystem, you can quickly pick up this drone and add it to your arsenal and have a better quality image and have a smaller, lighter weight drone to carry around. The cons are that honestly, unless you get the Pro View combo, which I think is really the only combo that would make sense for that creator, which are most of the folks who follow me on this channel, then you're not going to get full advantage of the sensor. And the sensor is the advantage of this drone, really. It's smaller, but for creators, it's the fact that it has a better sensor and it has the slow-mo capability. It's got the onboard 20 gigabytes of storage. There's a lot of stuff there that's great for creators. The cons, though, are that number one, it is expensive. Number two, to get full capability, you need to use the new goggles. And also, it's still only about a 1/2 inch sensor. It doesn't support log profile. It's still only 150 megabits. I don't know that this is going to create the kind of content quality that someone who is shooting log on the big sensor on the Mavic 3 or on the Mavic 2 is going to like or use, but you do get that Cinewhoop, you know, that FPV style look, if that's what you're looking for. Second is the FPV enthusiast. This is a person who just loves FPV drones, or maybe they are concentrating their content on FPV. That is, you know, definitely going to be the person who's looking at that either first or second purchase. So the 629 drone only, and they're just going to use their existing kit, or they're going to get the second kit if they haven't already purchased into the DJI system. They might not go all the way up because they might not need the additional features. But again, that person might actually go for all three or any one of those three combos. And then third is the FPV first time flyer, the person who was scared to get into FPV. Because honestly, if you look up even the DJI FPV drone, they're hard to fly, right? They're hard to fly, they're hard to use. And I don't think that that's something that a lot of people felt comfortable jumping into. Now, they might, with the motion controller and either one of the sets of headsets. So if you are either one of those three, if you are the creator, if you're the FPV enthusiast or racer, or you are the first-time FPV buyer, those are kind of the different categories that I think would be looking at this drone. And I think really the first-time buyer is the primary person that this is really focused on. So if you've already purchased the FPV drone, or you are looking at this from a cinematic standpoint, I don't know that you're necessarily the person that this drone is really kind of pointed towards. I think they're really looking at that first time FPV buyer. So if you've not yet added an FPV drone or any drones to your kind of arsenal of gear and tech and toys, and you've got some money to burn, I would definitely, take a look at this, because especially if you're first time, it seems to solve a lot of the problems. It's got a hover function, it's got lots of safety, it's got the downward sensing stuff, and honestly, it looks like it just would bounce off a bunch of stuff. So you hit a tree, you hit a rock, you hit something else, it's going to bounce off. And then even if it does get damaged, you're going to be able to repair it pretty well, which is great. And thank you, DJI, for putting all of that into this drone. So that is where I think this drone lands. This is where I think people will be looking at it. I think that if you are that first time FPV buyer, I give you permission. This is the drone that you should definitely be getting. If you're in one of those two other categories, I don't know. It's going to depend on your circumstances, and those different kits are oddly positioned for you specifically. But if you're a first time buyer, I think any one of those two kits that come with the controllers are going to be absolutely great for you. But let me know down in the comments who you are. Right? What kind of buyer are you, and does this make sense? And you can let me know how you feel about this video and the content that I'm producing by liking this video, by leaving comments, and by subscribing to my channel. If you are interested in purchasing this drone, please, there's a link down in the description that will get you free shipping, free priority express shipping for the next 3 days. So if you use that link down below, I do get a commission on that sale. I am a DJI store affiliate, and I would very much appreciate it because it does benefit me and the channel, helps me make these videos. Also, please don't hesitate to check out some of my other videos right here where we're going on some adventures, and you can go ahead and subscribe to my channel right here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.